Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Okay, let's get right into this video. So I was reading my comments last night, and somebody said, oh my God, you should do the A to Z book tag. And I was like, oh my God, I was gonna do that like 6 months ago and I completely forgot, right? So I went in today, I'm gonna address a little issue that I have. I went in today and I put into YouTube A to Z book tag and a bunch of people's videos came up and nobody had linked the original tag. And I was like, why? Now I don't know, they're sitting there on their phone and they're reading the questions off, so they obviously have the questions. The questions aren't on the video and the original tag isn't on the video. Folks, listen to me, okay? If you're gonna do a tag video, have the courtesy to link the original tag in the video, okay? Those people have gone to those people have gone to a lot of time and effort to make the video. Give credit where credit's due. So the original A to Z book tag comes from, I found it via Books and Lala because Books and Lala's a classy chick. So she had linked the original one. And it comes from the blog Perpetual Page Turner, so I will link it below. And it just goes in here and it asks all these different questions, A to Z, all about books. And I'm so excited. It's really a good tag, you guys. I love it. And I love when Bookstagram and BookTube and book bloggers kind of all mix, right? And where do we mix? On Goodreads. I love Goodreads. I love Goodreads so much. So if you're on Goodreads, go follow me. I friend request, or I just accept everybody's friend request on Goodreads. I think Goodreads is fantastic. I find now 90% of the books that I read off of Goodreads because I just stream through what people are reading or what they want to read, and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that. What is that? And then I go to that book, and then I'm like, oh, want to read. I just am constantly adding books to my want to read list. Please hold. I'm having some coffee this morning. Deliciosa. Okay, so let's just get right into this. Author you've read the most books from. Well, I would love to tell you it was James Joyce, but no, for me actually. I've read everything by John Green, and I have read everything by Rainbow Rowell. So those are the two biggest ones for me. I'm a diehard, I'm so old at this point. Listen, when you get in your 40s, okay, listen, okay? When you're a teenager, you read what you think are fun stories and you don't really care what anybody thinks, right? And then you get into college and you kind of start feeling well, I should be reading more literature, and that's what I did, especially as an English major. I felt well, I should be reading Chaucer, you know? So anyway, and then you get out of college and you kind of go through this phase where you're I don't want to read any of that stuff anymore because it's just, I read enough of it in college, and you kind of go the other way, right? And then if you're like me, you just go to all the pulp fiction that you buy at the grocery store. I did that forever. The David Baldacci's, the James Pattersons, I even read the Daniel Steele's and all that kind of stuff, okay? But I am a diehard Jackie Collins fan. But then I would lie about it. People ask me what I was reading, I'd be like, oh, well, there's a new book out, a new Oprah Book Club book out or whatever. That made it any better. And you should never be embarrassed of what you read. Reading is reading, right? So, but now I love young adult, and that's almost exclusively what I read. Well, that's not true. Adult mysteries as well. And so I've read if I find a young adult author that I love, I go and I just read everything by them. So John Green and Rainbow Rowell. B, best sequel ever. God, I just did a video yesterday about why I don't read series and duologies. What is the best sequel ever? Well, I can't think, I don't know which order it goes in, Poison Oak or whatever. But Brent Hardiger, who writes young adult LGBT fiction, he did a whole series called the Russell Middlebrook series. And the first book is called Geography Club, and the second book is when they go to this camp. And I liked the second book better than I liked the first book. So I would say, and I think it's called Curse of the Poison Oak. And I think that would probably be my favorite sequel. I haven't read a whole lot of sequels in book series. Okay, the next one, C, currently reading. I am currently reading, I just started it last night on, well, I'm reading 5 things, right? I'm reading Eliza and Her Monsters, and I'm reading Windfall in physical form. But on my Audible last night, or 2 nights ago, I started Paula Hawkins Into the Water. Oh, I mean, listen, okay? This is when you start becoming like a fairly sellout author and people call you like, oh, you're just one of those bestsellers. Don't we wish we all were that? But listen, okay, I criticize that Ruth Ware for her mysteries forever. Paula Hawkins, different story. She's like the contemporary Agatha Christie. I mean, her writing is so beautiful and so fine, and her mysteries are so woven so well. This book is wearing, I cannot speak today. This book is wearing me out. Oh my God, you need to go read. If you have read Girl on the Train, this is even better. You need to go read it right away. It's fantastic. Okay, the next question. Oh my God, did I lose it? Did I lose it? Drink of choice while reading. Coffee. Okay. E-reader or physical book? Well, I very rarely read e-readers, but I am reading a book right now on an e-reader, but always physical. Fictional character you probably would have dated in high school. Oh shit, I meant to look this up before I got on here. It's the main character in We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I loved him in that book so much. Let's see, glad you gave this book a chance. And it's interesting because the person that came up with this and I have the exact same answer, and that's Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I loved that book so much. I was blown away. And it's not like, I don't read that kind of like, what is that called? Dystopian fantasy. I don't typically read that stuff. And I thought Cinder by Marissa Meyer I was just blown away. I thought it was done so well. Okay, hidden gem book. It's always interesting to me when I see this on BookTube videos, like a hidden gem that you wouldn't normally think of. Well, there's this whole kind of cult writer situation that I don't know a lot of people know of. I just saw actually on my book shelf when I was looking for another one of these questions that we're going to answer in a second. There was an author that came out several years ago, and the author's name was J.T. Leroy. And J.T. Leroy was supposedly like this 15 or 16-year-old boy, I think, and he wrote these like incredible character stories about, like the first one was called Sarah, and it was about a teenager that was trans. They kind of said it, but not really. Gender fluid, in this like trailer park, lot lizard, and was like kind of like mother was a prostitute. Fantastic, okay? One of my all-time favorite books. And then J.T. Leroy's follow-up book to that was The Heart is Deceitful Among All Things, or Above All Things, or something like that. And they made that one into a movie that was very bizarre. The writing, it's bizarre, okay? I mean, it is like Hunter S. Thompson plus Chuck Palahniuk on acid. I mean, it's weird, okay? But I love it. Well, it came out that J.T. Leroy was not actually this like 16-year-old boy or 18-year-old boy or whatever he was supposed to be. That he was actually this woman that was disguising as J.T. Leroy, and the whole thing was just busted out. Do y'all remember that happening? It was crazy. So, okay, the next one, important moment in your reading life. And they put discovering Goodreads. I would also say discovering Goodreads. I will never forget, this was before I was on BookTube. And my friend Shell, who I've been friends with since high school, I don't know if she watches my videos, but hey Shell, she said, we were talking one night, and I said something to her about, like, she's not on Facebook. And she goes, but I am on Goodreads. And I go, what's Goodreads? And she goes, you don't know what Goodreads is? And I said, no, I have no idea. And she goes, well, it's kind of like this, like, app, this social, media thing. And you get on there and people talk about books. And I thought, oh, this is going to be some corny bullshit, right? Oh, my God. I, lived. I got on there. I was, obsessed with Goodreads, that quick. So anyway, but I will tell you another moment for me that changed was when... It was interesting because my husband is watching this TV show right now called, People from College or Friends from College or something. And he was upstairs watching it, and I was down here listening to it while I was working on something. And they were having this whole conversation about the importance of young adult, because there's a guy in it that's a young adult writer. And they were saying, but young adult's not really writing. And he's like, young adult is doing more, is more valued writing now than a lot of the writing out there. And John Green's Fault in Our Stars changed that. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that, but that is. And for me, when young adult went mainstream and I already loved it so much, was a defining moment in my reading, because I was like, I can read whatever I want to read. This is really what it was. The defining moment was when I stopped feeling like I needed to explain my reading, and I could just read whatever kind of shit I wanted to, and it was my business, nobody else's. Do you know what I mean? When you can sit by a pool and read a book and not be embarrassed over what you're reading, you know what I'm talking about? Or carry a book down the street or whatever. Listen, I have been a reading phony at times in my life. I have specifically taken a book on a trip or to a certain place just because I want people to look over and be like, oh, well, he's reading that. I mean, how phony is that? I've done that. I'll own that all day long, but baby, I don't do it anymore. No ma'am, I don't do that. No. I read what I want to, and if you don't like it, get out of the way. And the other thing that's interesting about it is the more honest and real I've been with my reading and coming on here and talking about it is, people come up to me all the time, they're like, oh my God, I wanted to read that, what did you think? And it's like some bestseller or some young adult book, like, the other day. I was somewhere when I was, somebody was reading The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider, which is one of my all-time favorite young adult books. A lot of people don't like it, but I loved it. And they were reading it, and it was like this teenager with her mom, and I said, oh my God, I said, this was by the pool, and I said, that book is so fantastic, and the mom just looked up at me, and she was like, I don't even know anything about what she reads, and I said, you should read that book is that fantastic, and the girl just looked up at me and smiled, but I think that's so cool to be able to have those conversations. Read what you want to read. That was a defining moment for me, was when I stopped reading what I felt was trendy or cool or what I should read because it was an important book. That's bullshit. Okay, I just finished Six of Crows. I did a whole video on it about why I don't read series. Y'all can watch it if you want to. Kinds of books you won't read. Extremely lengthy books. I'm talking 1,000+ pages, 800 pages. I can't do it. I can't commit that much. I'd rather read 3 or 4 books that are smaller than a 1,000-page book that's supposedly phenomenal. That's just my 2 cents about it. Longest book you've ever read. And she put I Know This Much Is True by Wally Lamb, and that's the exact same one for me. I Know This Much Is True. Well, I don't know. How long is The Fountainhead? I read The Fountainhead when I was in my 20s. Because I was a phony reader, and I thought you should read The Fountainhead. That book's stupid. I didn't get anything out of it. So anyway, but I can say I read The Fountainhead, and I got about 20 pages in Atlas Shrugged. Let's see. Major book hangover was... Please hold. I need some coffee. God, so many. I bawl my eyes out at books all the time. The Fault in Our Stars really screwed with my head for a long time. I sat on the front porch and just bawled when I read that book. But that was before the movie or anything came out. I was an early reader of that book. What else? Sometimes I cry because a book just ends so beautifully. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Just, God, it's like having the best dessert in the entire world, but you're not hungry anymore when you leave and you don't need any more. I just had just enough. It was just perfect when I read it, And I can remember when I finished it and I listened to it on Audible and I just was bawling my eyes out at the end. Number of bookcases you own. 1, 2, but I have 9 million boxes of books in my basement. One book you have read multiple times. Catcher in the Rye. Preferred place to read, on my front porch or Audible driving around. Quote that inspires you, gives you all the feels from a book you've read. God, I meant to look this up before I got on here, but well, because I don't want to get it wrong. You guys are like, Peter, this is why you need to edit. No, I don't edit. I don't like to edit, and I don't know. Let's see. Hold on a second, please. You guys are like, we've been waiting for 10 seconds. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view. Until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it, from To Kill a Mockingbird. And that's not actually the exact quote, I know, because I've read this enough times. The exact quote goes something like this. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view. Sir, said Scout, but they don't put that part in there. But that's my favorite quote of all time. Okay, sorry for that little reading regrets. Well, I regret that I haven't, at this point, already completed all of the Harry Potter books, because I've only read the first one. And this goes right into the next question. Series you started and need to finish. All books are out in the series Harry Potter. Although, isn't she coming out with a new Harry Potter book? Was it? I thought it was done. I thought, that shit confuses me. 3 of your all-time favorite books. I feel like I answer the same way to this all the time. To Kill a Mockingbird, Catcher in the Rye, and She's Come Undone. I need to reread She's Come Undone. I haven't read that book in a while. I'm going to change that up. I'm going to say To Kill a Mockingbird, Catcher in the Rye, and I'm going to change this because I love this book and I have seen it at Half Price Books a million times, and I don't hear anybody ever talk about it on BookTube, and that is Love Letters to the Dead by Ava DeLaria. That book blew me away. Must read if you like young adult contemporary. Unapologetic fangirl for John Green. I do not care. I think the man, everybody wants to call him like a sellout, and his books are trite, and he always has this angsty teenager. I don't care. I love John Green's books. I think they're fantastic. Very excited for the release, more than others, of John Green's new book. He has a new book coming out, and I'm really excited to read it. X marks the spot. Start at the top left of your shelf and pick the 27th book. Now, I'm not going to actually make you sit here while I go over there and do that, but that would be pretty typical of me, wouldn't it? Because I just make you do all these waitings. But I actually already went over there. It was interesting what the 27th book was. Are you ready? Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. I think David Levithan, they didn't ask this question, but if they ask, who do you think is the sexiest author ever? Well, first I'd say Sylvain Neuvel, who wrote Waking Gods and Sleeping Giants. But David Levithan, hubba hubba. Okay, I just think authors that are sexy, and I'm an author. Don't you think I'm sexy? Do you think I'm sexy? I just think authors are sexy anyway. If you're a writer and you have a book published, book a hotel room. So I'm a married man, baby. I'm a married man. Okay. Let's see, your latest book purchase. Well, my latest book purchase, and this goes into me not being embarrassed of what I read, was Truly Madly Guilty by Leanne Moriarty. I bought it yesterday at Target. They have all of her books. I've been looking for her books forever now, and I've only been buying one at a time. They have all of her books. And this is her newest release that was in hardback, and it literally just came out in paperback. I'm going to Miami next week, and baby, I will be by the pool reading this book. Big Little Lies wore my ass out when I was in Mexico. I cannot wait to read this book. I'm taking this, and that's all I'm taking. Okay. ZZZ Snatcher book, latest book that kept you up way late, and this would be every night this week. I have been reading chapters on my ebook on Kindle, which I hardly ever do. No Sanctuary by Richard Lehman, and last night I got so spooked I could not fall asleep. I mean, he writes horror. I always say horror, and everybody's like, there's some holes in the house. No, not those kind of horrors. But horror.